All right, and let me just refresh here, make sure we are good to go. All right, so far so good. What's up? What's up? Is that Noel? See what we got over here on Facebook. What's up, guys? Welcome, welcome. Let's just give everyone a couple minutes to get in here, and then we'll jump right into it with some questions. So first off, thank you guys for being here. I know it's Monday. Happy Monday, everyone. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope you did something productive. If we could do a little accountability check, why don't you let me know what you've been up to? Let me know what actions you took this week, or even over the weekend. How many offers did you make? How many phone calls did you make? What questions came up over the weekend as you were doing your research or looking into some things? Let me know. Let me know. And then we'll jump right into our questions. Got some stuff here. It's pretty interesting. Remember, you guys can send me your questions in advance. Just email me, mike@wholesalingwithmike.com. What's up, David? How are you doing, brother? All right, so before I get into the super specific one, all right, Noel sent some mailers. Awesome. Is this a follow-up round or was this a fresh list? And I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about your direct mail in just a minute. Ken is back. What's up, Ken? Been here for, we'll be on week 3 now. Week 3. All right, so before I get into like some of the more specific stuff, I got this question, which was more, I guess, philosophical in nature, but something I really like, and I just want to give my thoughts on it as we get more folks coming into the stream. Dre, REI, what up? What up? Appreciate you being here. Breaking up, right? The stream might be breaking up. I don't know. Maybe I'm also on YouTube and Facebook. If you wanna check there, it might be a little bit better. My man Dan, what's going on? All right. So the philosophical question I want to start off, which was kind of a cool comment, but it's basically somebody emailed me and said more or less they really are thinking about throwing themselves into wholesaling, but it's something where they feel like they need to commit to, and they're not sure if they really love, if they're gonna love the work, so they don't want to just kind of get in and it's like this half-ass thing and then they get bored with it or whatever. So I kind of get that and I understand it a lot. And what I find is this derives from the question or the advice that most of us probably got growing up that says to do to do what you love and to follow your passion, right? And so my thoughts on this, of course, there might be a couple conflicting thoughts, but it's basically this. And I've gotten flack for saying very openly that I don't love wholesaling or don't love real estate investing as a passion. It is not a passion of mine. A lot of people do. They're like, I love real estate. They just love it. So I'm kind of an opportunist in the sense that I just love the lifestyle that it affords to me. And even though I think a lot of us have been given this traditional advice about following your passion and your dreams, I would say the flip side of that is that I know people, and when there are folks who do follow their passion as their primary source of income, they can very quickly lose a love for that thing that they once loved. So an example would be, like I really enjoy MMA. I enjoy the art. I enjoy training. I enjoy fighting, all that stuff. And I know folks who do that as a living, and because of all the pressure it puts on them, that's how they provide for their family. I've known guys who really, they don't experience the same joy that they used to. Likewise, an artist, for example, someone who just loves their artwork and paints, they might even use it as a secondary source of income. But for a lot of those people, when it becomes the primary source of income, it's very easy for them to lose that passion. So what I would say, and the thing that I really enjoy about wholesaling, is the lifestyle that it affords me. It is something that you can do in very little time. In the beginning, no, you will put some time into it, or if you have significant resources in terms of money, you can set up the outsourcing and stuff like that. But for the majority of people I find trying to get into the business, it will take time. I always say be grateful for that initial barrier to entry, that time it takes. If everyone did this really easily in the beginning, would not be profitable. So your passion, and in addition, it allows me to keep the passions I really do have alive. And so I really do appreciate it and love it for the lifestyle it affords, but not necessarily a love of the art. If anybody can relate to that. And I think another part is, guys, this goes back to kind of goals and motivation. Shit, I think we just lost our YouTube stream, or we're slowing down a little bit. Sorry, let me open that up so I can see those comments on here really quickly. We got another 10Xer in the building. Welcome, welcome. All right, make sure we can get this stream going. Sorry, guys. And that I can see these comments. So, 1 second. But back to what I was saying. It's about goal setting and thinking about your goals. Now, I write my goals now every day. I do have monetary goals and I have financial goals that I'm trying to achieve and that I want to achieve, and I also have milestones and also expectations. So the minimum I need to work, the minimum amount I want to accept, things like that. But what I would recommend on the topic of motivation, because it's another one that ties into this that I've been getting often, is if you want to make $10,000 a month, sometimes it can be very hard to wrap your head around that the number in terms of your different motivation, your disciplines, even as far as your, a lot of your into same like me, your visualization and projecting and manifestation techniques and stuff like that. So one thing I like to do really is I always have, as opposed to thinking so much and obsessing about the number. Now, I do think it's important to write it down and have numbers, but rather than do that, oftentimes what I do is focus on an experience that I like to have, a certain part of my lifestyle that I'd like to achieve, and that's what I want. And by focusing on that and visualizing it, it makes things a lot more tangible and easier, and it also reminds you what you're doing these things for. And in that sense, let's say if your goal was $10,000 a month, it more or less becomes, what do I say, the like almost inevitable, like it's a part of the process, but the focus is not necessarily on that dollar figure, that dollar amount. It's more or less on the experience and the way that you like to live. So that was a good question. I'm really glad I got that email. Now we'll probably jump into some of the more tangible, wholesaling related stuff. We do have some questions here, so as promised, I'm going to start off there. But if you guys have some questions that you'd like to ask right now on the live stream, what's up? What's up? Ken is here. Rob made it. Appreciate that. I know you asked me a question on Facebook. I kind of forgot what it was. So if you wouldn't mind reiterating that for me there, I will answer that for you. I think yours might have been about title companies. So yeah, Rob, if you want to type that in. Syndicator is back. What's up, Art? Good to see you again. Pleasure. And then I'm going to jump into some of the questions here. Oh, it's transactional funding. Okay. Let me start off right here, and I'll get to that in just a moment. All right. So first was just a recommendation on direct mail. So have a big week. I like it. For direct mail, there are a lot of different companies that use it. I would recommend yellowletters.com if you really are looking to outsource. What I would say though, for a lot of people on this call, and a lot of beginners, like I said, especially in the beginning, you're going to spend either time or money in your business. Now, if you have the money and very little time, let's say you work I got a buddy of mine, he's working I think he's working in computer software. And so he really didn't have a lot of time. He had like 3 daughters as well. So I can't even imagine that. But and he was doing well already. So he did have money. So for him, someone like that, outsourcing is crucial. Just, that's what you'd want to do. For a lot of you guys, I think I would recommend, even though it's good to outsource, and I believe very much in outsourcing and automation, which is amazing. But in the beginning, it really might be worth it for you to do a lot of these things yourself. On the topic of outsourcing, I actually got a call today from what I can assume was a VA working for another wholesaler. Had seen, I guess, one of my the listings I have on a classified site or something, because they weren't aware that I was wholesaling. And when she called me, it was clear to me that she was not well trained. The delivery was very off. It was a little bit abrupt. She wasn't reading from a script. And then she just basically like, "Do you have properties?" And I was like, "Well, like, what are you looking for?" And then I asked her a little bit. I was trying to find out if the guy was a wholesaler or a legit buyer. I was asking what kind of contingencies he was looking for. The inspection date. And I was explaining to her that I have my own set of contingencies and I only offer contracts, and telling her essentially what I did. And she just had no idea. I'm just like, man, this guy is paying money, even if it's not a lot, for this person to call, and it's just like an instant turn off. Even if I was a motivated seller, like, how there's so much stigma about scams and stuff, it would be an instant turn off to me. So I guess the point I'm going back to is that you have to make sure people are very well trained. Now, also, when you're doing stuff like if you haven't done your first deal and you're looking to pay someone even for, let's say $1 and change a letter, when you could, just print it and do it at home, you might want to do that because, like I said, your first deal could be the one in the first 100 letters you send, or it could be one in the first 1,000 letters you send. And it really does take just that one deal. You know, if you do that first deal, which is typically the hardest, that's something you hear very often. It's something that I very much agree with. But if you can just get that one deal, you know, 10, 20K, well, now you can throw that into your direct mail and start from there, as opposed to a lot of folks are working with a, you know, $200 budget and trying to do direct mail. That's something that you really do need to scale out in order to, like I said, you could get lucky. And I have been there, spent $100 and change on a mailer or something like that and gotten a deal. But if you want this to be predictable and replicatable, where you know that you're doing deals every month, then that's something I would recommend. The other thing I would recommend, you know, yellow letters and sites, similar sites have become more popular. And so I do believe in trying to, you know, in addition to touching your customers 6, 7 times, you do want to stand out. There's a fantastic book I read, man, it's been years, and I can't remember the name, but it's about marketing. I'll try to post it in the comments here. I want to say John. I really can't remember. I'll figure it out for you guys. But basically, it was talking about one way to stand out in the world of marketing is to just be different, right? And so even how some of you guys know me, the wholesaling Titan, like my even the brand, and there are two sides of it, by the way. When I'm dealing with like buyers and also people who are learning from me, whatever, that's the stuff I use. I use my company, Liberty Property Investments, when I'm dealing with motivated sellers. So the projection is different. You know, I'm branding myself different depending on my audience. But I will say, even though I've caught some flack for people maybe don't like the name or something like that, or, you know, it's a little goofy, the character and all that. Number one, it vibes with me. It's fun. It's represented. I'm a comic book nerd, so I really enjoy it. But there are times where I've gone to, you know, different RIA meetings and stuff like that, and people I've never met before come up to me and they're like, "Oh, the green guy, like I recognize you." And so the point there is to just be different. In that book I was talking to you about, this guy was working for one of these NBA teams, and they were performing very poorly, and one of the direct mail campaigns he sent, it was something, and he had like rubber chickens attached. It had nothing to do with, I think they were trying to sell like season tickets. It had nothing to do with the campaign, but because it was so different, it got people to respond and remember him and stuff like that. So I do mailing direct, like I do it personal, and I have unique postcards that I created myself, so they don't look like the same pink and yellow and whatever. And those are for my follow-up pieces. And it is cheaper. It's less expensive. I get those done customized from it's actually a printing company down here in South Florida. They'll mail to anywhere, but if you want to go pick them up, they're right in South Beach, so you can go pick them up. Their Elite Flyers, I believe their email is just website, eliteflyers.com. They do really, really good work, and their prices are super competitive. So if you guys want to use them, they're a great resource. And then just make sure your marketing is very different. I like to use kind of comedy, or at least something very much rememberable in you know, in my piece or in my different various mail pieces. So that would be my recommendation for you guys on the direct mail pieces. All right, so next we'll jump into All Marketers Are Liars by Seth Godin. I'm not familiar with that book. So I don't know it, but if you recommend it, I mean, shout them out. I can't make the recommendation because I haven't read it, but sounds decent. But I will find the name of that book. I think it's like more or less like a classic. It's an older one, but it's still some very good stuff. All right, somebody's calling me. We'll have to call them back. All right, Rob, so tell you about transactional funding. So transactional funding, I actually have a video on my YouTube site, so go watch it because it'll go into more detail. So I'm not, you know, repeating too much stuff from folks on here. But but just to go into it very briefly, so that's transactional funding is what you'll use when you're trying to do a double closing. I mean, there's an A to B. The A is a direct seller, or, you know, your listing agent, but that's the property you're buying, and then B is you're the buyer. So then that's the first closing. It's a separate transaction. The next closing is the B to C. So now you're the seller and C is your end buyer. So these are two transactions. It's different from an assignment where there's only one transaction and you're just assigning your rights. So what happens is, let's say you put a property under contract, you're going to buy it for $100,000. You don't have $100,000. So you go to a transactional funder. If you guys are doing deals here in South Florida and you close with my title company, I will provide transactional funding on your behalf. And a transactional funder will give you a 24-hour loan. Now, the cool thing about transactional funding is it is not contingent on your credit or anything that has to do with you, because really it's a no-risk loan on the part of the funder. That money does not go to purchase the A until your end buyer has put up their money with the title company. So basically, if you have the property on the contract for 100 and I'm funding your deal, right? And then you have an end buyer who's going to buy it for you for 130. You set up the transaction to two separate transactions to take place in the same day. C, my end buyer will wire in the 100 and what do we say, 30,000 or whatever we said, 130 into the title company. The title company will call and say, okay, we got the money, and then we will close on the A to B, and I'll send the wire 100,000, and as a part of the fee, transactional funders, like I said before, I think in the last video, some of them take a higher percentage, like 2%. You should not pay more than 1% for transactional funding. So in this case, on $100,000, it would be $1,000 would be the fee. So then your spread is 30,000. Now, because it's two separate transactions, you're going to pay closing costs for the first A to B transaction. That's not going to come out of your pocket. It just comes out of your end profit. So out of that 30,000, you'll pay your closing costs, probably be like $2,000 or something like that, and then you'll pay the $1,000 fee for the loan, quick 24-hour loan, and then you'll make what's left over. So you're gonna make, like, let's say like 27,000. But again, if you go to my YouTube channel, you can see the extended video on that piece. All right. So hopefully that is helpful. All right. Do you write up your own contracts, or is there a place to get contracts from? I'm assuming you mean fill out my own contracts. So I lease all of the Florida contracts from a site called AltaStar. That's because I'm not licensed as a realtor. So here in Florida, you can pay to lease those forms and use them legally. I know a lot of people, and even back in the day, I used them. I just found them on Google and filled them out. That's the state approved, the Board of Realtor approved contracts. Again, that's what I recommend for my students to use. But if you want to be in compliance with the law and copyright law, you can just lease them. And here it's like $129 for the entire year. And then from there, yeah, I fill them out. But I also use software, meaning that in my software, my CRM, there's you upload the contract. I recommend, instead of using an electronic signature, you physically sign them. So it looks like a handwritten signature. You'll get more deals accepted that way. And even some folks don't. I think everyone's taking them now, but sometimes you run into people who don't want to take an electronic signature, and some people even just like type their initials. That's not going to be good for everyone. So what you want to do is, after you sign it with your actual signature, then you can scan it into your computer, right? Or if you have like a Mac and you're using Preview, you can actually like sign it on a trackpad. I'm sure Windows has something similar, but I have standards. I'm just joking. I'm a Mac user though, but still an Android phone guy. But yeah, then you upload the contract, and then in my CRM, you guys should just watch the video where I use it, because then I show it's a little bit hard to describe. But for every contract or every listing, you just write the amount that you want to offer and like the date you want to close. And then everything that stays the same, like it'll automatically put today's date, and you can write the date you want to close. Then it will automatically fill in each individual contract on your behalf, because you already have the template set up, and then send it out as an attachment in a pre-written email. So now you can send like 20, 30 contracts within like 3 to 5 minutes, and so it's really, really helpful. So that's how you would do contracts. Now you can download, if you're using an assignment contract or just a simple like generic purchase and sales agreement. I have those on my website, so just go to www.wholesalingwithmike.com, click on the free downloads button, and you can download a copy of the contract there. That's typically, and I recommend using those when you're dealing direct with the seller. It's just hassle-free. It makes it very easy, especially if they're motivated. But if you are dealing with like listed properties, you're going to have to use those, realtor approved, because you're dealing with a listing agent. So you're going to have to use those forms. Now, if you can get your hands on a copy and just fill them out yourself, preferably legally, it's going to greatly increase the chance of you getting deals done, because you're moving a lot faster, and you're also helping the listing agent out by not having to give them a lot of paperwork to do. You've already pre-done it. If you try to use your own contract for those type of deals, it won't work. Some people also have personal contracts drawn up by attorneys. You can do that again, but in this case, again, it wouldn't work with those MLS listed properties. All right. I didn't mean to use laughing mode. I'm close to locking my first deal, but the lady wants an appraiser to come. Has anyone dealt with this? When you say the lady, who are you speaking about? The seller or the buyer? Let me know. All right. In Ohio, can I recommend anyone to work with you or title company that will provide transactional funding? What I would recommend is go to meetup.com, look for your local RIA, your real estate investing club, and then you should ideally start attending those meetings. Look, even if you have to drive, if you're in a good market, you'll probably be somewhere within half hour. But hey, if you have to drive even an hour, I'm very much a fan of trying to be more efficient. But if you have to drive 1 hour once a month to network with key players in your market, to network with some of the best cash buyers, to get on the good side of like people who are doing a lot of deals, I absolutely recommend you do that. I mean, it's great to be in online masterminds and groups like that, but if you really want to get taken seriously, I think the face-to-face networking is ideal, and that's the best way to do it. So I would go there. Once there, I would talk to the head of the meeting. You can also see typically they're like different membership tiers within the group. So talk to those top people, ask them who they close with, who funds their deals, who does transactional funding, and then go from there. I mentioned this on the last video. Also, don't underestimate the power of Google, guys. Just go look for reviews for title companies, and then if you're calling cold, just start calling the title companies and ask some kind of qualifying questions. Hey, do you work with investors? Can you recommend someone for transactional funding? Do you work with wholesalers? Do you do assignments? Do you do double closings and things of that nature? And they should be able to help you out. Meeting this Saturday, absolutely, that's a great thing you should do. My personal stance, actually, I got a video on my YouTube about networking. Highly recommend you guys check it out. That is the way I prefer to network is not so much. I prefer to go for quality over quantity. I would much rather go to a meeting and meet 1 or 2 people that I really connect with, that I feel like I could offer value to them, that I could help them, and that we really connect on some basis, or maybe they could benefit from knowing some of the people I know, and even vice versa, as opposed to go and have these quick, 2-minute interactions, try to shake as many hands as I can, fucking throw out business cards. Like, I prefer quality over quantity. So that'd be my recommendation. But the networking video I have is pretty good. I got some, being modest, it's a dope video. And I've gotten some very good feedback from it, from in particular my students, but even on the channel, I got some good stuff about it. So definitely go check that one out before you go. All right, so you feel like it's going to crush the entire deal. She's extremely motivated to sell. It's a home she's had vacant for almost 2 decades. So I'm assuming that's the seller now. Look, if the seller is insisting that you go get an appraiser, she might not be as motivated as you think. But my advice would be, when you're dealing with a seller, you got to be operating from a script and understand, okay, why is that property vacant? Why is she looking to sell? Why, find out how much equity is in the property and just ask straight up, what's the lowest she'll take? You need to explain that you're an investor, and essentially any appraiser is great, but it's more or less irrelevant. You have your SOP, your standard operating procedures, how much you guys are allowed to pay for property. They have to understand you're not buying for retail. You're not buying to move there, but you're buying as an investor. So she has to understand their holding costs and various costs, and especially if it's vacant, there could be different liabilities in there. So if she could just kind of let you know what she's looking for, you just want, and a lot of times you're going to get resistance here. So you ask for a ballpark figure and say, hey, I only want to do this deal if it's a win-win, if it works for you. So just let me know, what you have in mind. You kind of push for that. On that note, I'm going to be having my program with scripts coming out, and I don't just want to put the script out there. I want to give some really good training on how to use it. There are ways to, not just read from a script so you sound like one of these robotic cats from, like a damn VA that's working, wherever. Nothing against VAs. A lot of them are actually very, very competent. So I wouldn't mean it in that way. But essentially, you just don't want to sound like a robot. You need to know, but you need to follow a script. And there's also, you got to display some empathy, and you want to be honest in your dealings and stuff like that. So I really want to give comprehensive training. I'm going to have a video probably maybe by end of this week, early next week, with some more details on that program. So it'll be on my YouTube channel. If you guys aren't there, please go check it out. There's some more in-depth videos, and do consider subscribing and grabbing some notifications. Helps the channel out a great deal, and you also get the best information there. But yeah, and then also another thing you can do, And I don't do this on all of my properties. A lot of properties I do virtually, I never see them. But if it's something where you feel like the lead is strong, again, I had a call today with a buddy of mine. I was saying, look, I try not to go out to a lot of properties, but if I feel like it's a good deal, if there's like 30K on the line, we're talking about Orlando, I said I have no problem jumping in my car and taking a drive for 2 hours. If I feel like the potential is there. So if you feel like the potential is there, you can go. And a lot of times, presentation is a big deal too. You can go take your own pictures, like with the as advanced as our phones are nowadays. You don't even need like some fancy camera, and you can more or less make your own PDF. Don't pretend to be an appraiser or a contractor or anything like that. That'll get you in trouble. But you can put them in a PDF and put your findings. And when I say your findings, you could just point out everything that's wrong with the property. And you could just tell the seller that you could. Or, again, if you think there's some potential and maybe you don't have a full pipeline, you could actually put it in a PDF and show, hey, just so you know, this is all the work that we're working on. And you can even show your own costs and how much that means to you. I don't recommend doing that, if you're dealing with a lot of properties and stuff like that. It's not going to be a good use of your time. But again, if this is something you're working on, you feel like there's potential, and then you think it's worth it, it could also just be a good exercise for you. Don't spend too much time on this. It should not be a week-long project, but this is something that you can do within a day, and you can make yourself look a lot more professional by doing them. And then you can also point out the comps. But again, in that analysis, this is not lying or anything, but you do have to show the lower side of the comps, because you can't show the optimal side, because obviously, I think it's pretty obvious. It doesn't really make sense. It really doesn't make sense. So hopefully that answers your question, helps you out a little bit. You got some hearts, sounds good. Cool. Where do I go for my list of potential motivated sellers? Go to my website, www.needmotivatedsellers.com. There's a free ebook you could download there. It's called 41 Ways to Find Motivated Sellers Fast as Hell. They're going to show you all the different ways. I don't think there's any one size fits all. A lot of it is going to depend on what your criteria is. How much free time do you have? How much money to spend on marketing do you have? What market are you in? What do you like to do? There's certain things, coming up. I would do anything to get a deal. I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, sometimes earlier, and write up all my bandit signs and go out and drop them. And I would do that consistently. I don't do that anymore. I don't want to. And that's the only reason why. But there's a lot of information in that ebook, and I've talked about it on previous calls. But more or less, I think the big point that I always make is that it's more about consistency than the type of list. People don't like to hear it. Everyone's always asking for the best list. Read the first 13 pages in particular of that book. It will tell you that, again, it's more about the consistency, and it'll give you some of the criteria that you want to use to pick the list where you are, and then do some target market stuff. Also, what I told one of my students is that, related to the point I made before, it's also what's easy and accessible to you. So like I have my video on code enforcement. Those are great lists. Some people don't have that in their municipality. So it's like, okay, if it's not there for you, you either have to decide, do I want to venture into another market? And it could just be the zip code next door. You have to look and see what's available to you. There's some places where, for example, probate leads, you might have to buy into, there's certain websites like they have the Daily Business Review down here in Florida. You might have to buy into that. It might be subscriptions where you need. Here in Palm Beach County, I can go, one of the lists I use, so I target probate lists. It's a great list for me. It takes a little bit longer than, say, some of the other deals. Like, listed deals you can do very quickly. Probate process can take more time. But part of it I picked not only because that was, I read about them, I learned about them. It seemed pretty cool. Not cool that, we're talking with deceased folks, but some people feel very uncomfortable doing that. I'm like, look, something's got to happen with these houses, and sometimes you're doing the family a service. So don't be an asshole about it. Have some empathy. But, we don't think of funeral directors as bad people because they make a living off of this stuff. You're really just trying to provide a solution. Again, you're not trying to rip anyone off. It's like, hey, if this works for both of us, if it's win-win, let's do it. If not, you want to list it or something, that's completely cool. You move to the next one because we have that abundant mindset. But back to why I also like that niche is that I can go to Palm Beach. I used to go to the courthouse. I don't do that now because guess what? I discovered you can go online and buy this information for $5, like literally $5 a month. Not everyone has that. So obviously that's one of the things I'm going to do because I have access. Another thing I talk about is, especially if you're on a budget or if you just want higher conversion rates, is adding multiple layers of criteria to your list. So another list that I target is absentee owners who have evicted a tenant. Now, there is no list where you can just buy that, right? But, and I have a video on this. Actually, I don't think it's on, I don't have a video on my YouTube channel, but it's on my replay of the previous webinar I did. So I highly recommend you do that, because I do a screen share where I show you how this works. And again, back in the day, very price sensitive, I used to do that myself, and it would take a shitload of time. But in the beginning, you got to spend time or money. So now I don't do that, but I have a VA who does it on my behalf. But essentially, she looks at, you know, what criteria I'm looking for. So weeds out all of the stuff like manufactured homes or condos or stuff like that. We look at single family homes. And again, you can, the process can be, depends on how much time you want to put into it. But if you're, you know, need the highest converting list, you got to take your time, copy those addresses into Zillow and see what they look like. It can be time consuming, but again, that's why I said it depends on where you are in your journey. And then, so we look at that, the eviction list, and then all of the owner's mailing address who live out of state. And then I have her cross-reference that with a list of equity properties in the area that I pull out of my CRM, out of RealFacts. So again, it depends on the tools you have at your disposal, your market, stuff like that. But if you want to watch that presentation, you know, most of my YouTube videos, I try to keep them pretty detailed, but most of those would be like 30 minutes or so. In the webinar presentation, that's like a good hour, hour and a half of content, and I show you exactly how I do it. So that's same URL, needmotivatedSellers.com. After you download the free ebook, you'll see a link to watch the replay. All right. So hopefully that helps you. But there's good information in that book for sure. All right, so keep your questions rolling in. Let me check. Actually, I haven't even checked on the YouTube comments. What's up, guys? Sorry if I neglected you for a minute there. Let's see. Do I still use Hubzu? So yeah, but the thing with Hubzu, there was a point where back in the day, Hubzu for me was like kind of a go-to. You could expect to do a deal every month. Now I don't look at it that way. It's more because before you could just make hundreds of offers and then they would eventually ban your account. And then you just start, you get a new email address and do it over and over again. I think it's a little bit saturated now, and you have to put in your social and all this shit when you go there. So in terms of the process and how I talk about bidding strategies and stuff like that, pretty much the same deal, but like in terms of how you go through and watch my Hubzu video, it's like how you get the contract and market it and stall for time, stuff like that. That all works, but I'd be a little bit more choosy. I'd be more watching before you just go out and blast offers. And what you'll find is because so many people bid these properties up too high, they go into contract, the end buyer or wholesaler, whoever realizes they can't sell them or they bid too high, then it comes back. Then you'll see it come back on market, then it will come back. Probably like the third time, you'll see a massive price drop, and that's when I would submit an offer. But again, make sure it makes sense. Again, that's not like no longer a go-to source. It's more just like supplemental deals, you know? So I would just take 5 minutes a day to check it out, just to, you know, look at it, see what's there. And then every now and then, again, when you want to place a bid, you'll probably do a deal there maybe every couple of months, but it's not something I would personally count on for a consistent stream of deals. All right. So, house, the $100, I'm not sure what that means. Can I use this trans with agent? Chris, I've seen your questions, man. I'm not really sure what that means, so if you could let me know. When closing with the title company, would you set up the B to C closing first or A to B, and you actually need a closing settlement statement? So, sorry, some of the questions are a little, if you guys could specify a little bit. But yeah, you just set them up in the first day. Typically, if you're using transactional funding, it's like, in theory, the A to B obviously comes first and the B to C comes second. But you set them up the same day, and basically, the C, your end buyer will wire the funds in typically first, and then your transactional funder, upon confirmation, will send it into the title company. As long as that happens same day, yeah, you will have a closing statement for each transaction. And what else I want to mention with this? Because I got a similar question on this via email, but I can't remember at the moment. When closing with the title company. All right, it'll come back to me. I did get a question on that via email. Don't use with MLS listing for transactional funding. Again, I'm not sure what this means. You guys got to kind of be a little bit more specific with the questions. finding the higher end homes on Hubzu, at least in Ohio, is where you can pick up a 50 to 20K wholesale profit, especially if you have a buyer that is willing to do a lot of rehab work on the home. Yeah, another thing I'll mention with these Hubzu properties is that you want to target the vacant ones. There's some you'll see where it'll say occupied, like don't disturb sellers. Well, you don't have an inspection period. If you go knock on the door, a lot of times these people, it's not in their best interest to let you in. You know what I'm saying? If the sooner they let you in, the sooner they typically will get kicked out of the home. And then also part of the contingency of that contract that you're not supposed to do that, and that just makes it a lot harder to sell. I'm not saying it's impossible. I haven't done it because I don't target those properties. So the only thing I've done is vacant properties. Also, the cool thing, Hubzu properties are very, very easy to show because, again, they're vacant. They're on a lockbox. And if you get a contact, a good connection with a realtor, they can get you that box, and you can typically get access to the property very easily. And just as you guys know, vacant properties are much, much easier to sell. All right. So let's see. So can you touch on equity in the wholesale deals? Can a seller take their equity out before the buyer gets the property? I'm not sure what you mean, but basically you do want to make sure, if I'm understanding correctly, that there's equity in the property, right? So if a property is worth, let's say, $100,000, and they paid off half of it, they paid off 50%, and so they still owe the bank $50,000. So the way it works, everything is going through the title company. And actually, I got a question on that. I'll answer for you in 1 second, or for whoever asked that. But yeah, so you're gonna send in the $100,000, be it yours or the transaction funder or whatever, and then that's where the title company is gonna handle it. So they're gonna pay off. Let's say if there's any utilities owed, you know what I'm saying? Like if there's a water bill for $1,000, if there's any type of liens or stuff like that, typically they will pay it off at that point, and then that's when they're gonna take your 100. They'll pay off the 50,000 to the lender, and then the end buyer or the seller, the seller will get what's left over. So that's how that works. But yeah, the other question on this note, somebody is asking me to explain the role of the title company and kind of what they do. So basically, the title company is a simplified version of this, is that the title company is making sure that whoever is selling the property has the rights to do so they can actually sell it. And so a part of that is what they do is they go through the chain of title. So they look back in the past, and title companies work with these underwriters, and they make sure they look at every owner and every transaction, make sure it was legit, make sure the deed passes, make sure whoever is trying to sell you the property is not has the rights to do so. And my buddy Kevin Thatcher is the owner of Independence Title that I close with. Remember, these guys are also looking out for your best interest. So he's actually been featured in the news and several times. He's our local hero for finding like fraud cases where people have tried some real shady stuff. I think is one of his more famous ones. I don't remember the exact details of the case, but the dude was trying to sell a house. He might have had some fraudulent documents or something. And it was looking good, man, from what I remember. And Kevin had to reach out. Something was like funny to him. And they tracked down the real owner who was living, I think, somewhere else and wasn't even aware. I don't know if it was signatures weren't matching or what. And that guy had no idea that the sale was happening. They called the guy up. They basically set up like a sting operation. Dude got arrested. I think he's doing some time for sure. But so, they got to make sure they're looking out for your best interest. The other thing they provide is title insurance. So if you guys think of regular insurance, like your car insurance, you go to your, Geico, whoever, and it says, you take out your policy and it says, hey, if you get into an accident, we're going to pay XYZ. But title insurance, you can think of it as insurance in reverse. So they're basically saying, the title company is saying, hey, we guarantee that you're buying this property and we're giving you our word. We're backing you that we looked over everything and we're comfortable that this is who owns the property, whatever. If we're wrong about something in the past, if you have trouble, let's say reselling it afterwards, they basically will make it right, or, they that's their insurance. They pay for it. So that's why you have to have title insurance, and that's why anybody buying a house would be a fool to try to buy a house without title insurance. But that's why you want to work with an investor-friendly company, and you ideally always want to be closing with your title company. Now, there are times where I've had to close with seller title companies. I'm doing a lot more joint venture stuff, so it's like whoever the seller chooses, or if there's another buyer and I'm kind of the middleman, I just have to roll with what they're doing. But if I have the choice, I'm going to choose my my title company, because they're always looking out for your best interest. A seller title company is looking out for the seller's best interest. If something happens, you put up an earnest money deposit, for example, and there's some kind of confusion, and maybe you go past the date or something like that, you're gonna have a very hard time getting your money back. So that's why I don't do it. The other thing is, if you are working with a seller title company, they don't have to know about the flip if you're doing either like a land trust assignment of beneficial interest, or a resignation of trustee, or if you're doing A to B and then B to C closing. And the way that would work is it's best to you're going to be in touch with the seller title company. You're going to say, you'll tell the seller, hey, I wanted to close with my title company, and try to get that. Sometimes they'll say yes. A lot of times they'll say yes. And the way you do that is you say, listen, I'm very comfortable with these guys. I work with them all the time. They're legit. And I will pay for the closing costs. Now, quick note, that does not include a realtor commission if there is one. And that's another reason why I use the state-approved contract. In Florida, it's called a FAR. But anyway, you go to the seller company, and the seller and the title company, and say, hey, I want to close with my title company. I just need to make sure my interests are protected. So we can close with your title company. That's cool. And in that case, the seller will pick up those costs typically. But I just would like my title company to perform a courtesy close, which basically means they're just going to look over all of the paperwork to make sure my interests are protected. So that's all good. Everyone says yes to that because, it would be ridiculous not to. And then while your title company is getting the lien search and all these different things from the seller title company, the seller title company is sending that to them. They're reviewing it, but they're also using that and processing your B2C transaction. So even if you're doing the double close, the money comes in from the C buyer, and then they tell the transaction funder. The transaction funder will wire it into the seller title company once they're good. So again, ideal to work through your end title company, but if you can't, it's not the end of the deal. You can still go ahead and move forward, with the seller stuff. Email address for me is mike@wholesalingwithmike.com, and so you can send me your questions, and please do for our next live stream. All right. Okay, let's see. I know I missed some stuff here, and let's see what we got next. But yeah, guys, keep while I'm looking through this, scrolling through here. Let me know if you guys have more questions. Hello. Mario's here. Sign up for a course. Awesome, man. Love to work with you. If you want to let me know where you are, that would be ideal. That'd be great. Does the seller have to be at closing? So typically, and this is what I recommend, if you're working seller and buyer, try to set them up. It'll be same day, but try to have them come in at different times. They don't need to be at the table signing everything because, again, they're two separate transactions. But even in the way of assignment and stuff, I try to have them completely separate. Now, typically, the seller does show up to the closing. There are times, I show up to a lot of my closings, not all of them. But also, you don't have to be present, and none of the parties have to be present at closing. Sometimes there's certain documents that need to be notarized. In those cases, the title company will typically, take the documents and send them via FedEx, and then that party, the seller, whoever, will take the package, go to a notary, usually like a bank or something. They'll sign what they need to sign in the presence of the notary, and then put it in a. It'll come with a envelope, FedEx envelope, and then they can just send it back. So that's how you can do closings remotely. And then I don't know how this works in other title companies and if it's going to be more popularized, but I will imagine. But Independence Title, my title company, they can now do virtual notary. And to my knowledge, at this time, they're the only ones that have been authorized to do that in the state of Florida. And that's basically where they can verify your information and notarize you via like a Skype call, and you provide your information that way. I haven't done it, so I don't know the specifics. I'm not too far from them. I always like to say what's up to those guys when I'm there. But yeah, it's just something to keep in mind, especially if you guys want to close with them. They close deal anywhere in Florida, so you could be literally like on the West Coast or somewhere far away. They're here in Fort Lauderdale and still do your deals there. David, what's up, man? Glad you are making your way through. The course is very thorough. Thank you. I try to keep it that way. There are also some updates. Timeline on the scripts being added to the materials. There's some scripts that you guys who are in my program now will get. Also, anybody who is in my coaching program, the program I've talked to you all about the training and the scripts, that's going to be that is going to be for purchase. It's going to be a premium program that I'm selling alone. But any one of my students that's in my program, basically before it drops, I'm giving you guys automatic access to that like, you know, included for free, so you'll get access to that. Also, I have some of just the scripts. I'll add to the membership portal, and you guys will have just the scripts. um Obviously, I don't have all the videos and stuff like that done, and I probably won't have that done till I come back from vacation, which will be, you know, I'm going to my Vegas vacation, so I will probably have those done sometime in August. But I can put up some of those scripts for you guys. Also, I have one script that can be available for everyone. That is a free script. If you, I believe that's my seller script. Um, I told you guys earlier about needmotivatedsellers.com. So you get the ebook for free, then you watch the presentation, and then at the end of the presentation, of the webinar, there's a download link where you can get that seller script, and that's a very good one for dealing with motivated sellers. All right. Do I do a memorandum for deals or let the seller and buyer know that I'm filing it? No, I don't. I don't personally. That's something you could do, but for me, I don't need to. Maybe you'll catch me here, bachelor party in Vegas in August. Awesome, man. I gotta come back sometime before school starts. So school for my daughter starts like August, like second week of August. So if it's before then, you give me a shout, man. We can definitely link up. That'd be awesome. Okay, want to dive into what's working in today's market, not generic stuff like you see people online pitch. All right, so this question is going to be, you know, I get a lot of questions like this, and the way I interpret it, even if you don't mean it that way, it's typically a lot of people looking for the magic pill, the best fill in the blank, right? And so I would say there's nothing wrong with looking for new stuff. I do, even pretty much everything I do a lot of A/B testing. So again, even if that's with my direct mail, I test two different pieces. Even, you know, emails that I might send to you guys, or buyers emails, stuff like that, I always do you know, split testing on all of that stuff. So yeah, it's good to keep up with, like, and try new things and stuff like that. And that's where I'm going to be going with my Facebook stuff, which I told you guys I'm going to be trying that, but I don't have it. I'm not using that just yet. But I think the core thing here is that, you know, yes, keep up with the times and stuff like that, but at the same time, there's certain things that are proven that just work. And if you're not proficient with that, I would recommend that you really do that and stick with it. This stuff works, but you just got to be consistent. You know what I'm saying? And these are also things that I can say will be predictable and replicatable, meaning that I can tell you, hey, if you do A, B, C, you know, these very specific actionable tasks, you will get XYZ results. Again, read my book, 41 Ways to Find Motivated Sellers. The first 13 pages really talks to you about that and how to pick your specific niche and stuff like that. Although, here's one valuable piece of, I did say I was going to give you guys a good resource today. Now, I kind of have a policy that I'll talk to people about new stuff I'm doing, but I don't like teach it, or I don't really teach it until I have results that, again, are predictable, replicatable, that you can use. But in this case, this is something new that I'm using, and it looks very, very promising. And so since you guys are here with me on the call and sticking it out, I want to let you know about it. And so typically, this is for driving with dollars. When I'm driving for dollars, typically, you guys may have seen my video before, I use HomeSnap, find out basic information about the property, and I'm looking for things that are dilapidated, that look vacant, that have huge weeds in the yard. You guys, if you follow my Snapchat, you know, you might have seen videos. You'd be surprised, man. People are asking, where's the deals? Where are the deals? You know, I literally drive, you know, like a half a block radius, and I've seen like 10 vacant homes. So again, to a degree, it depends on your market, but also just get out there, start looking for signs, look for lock boxes on doors, stuff like that. But typically I would do that and then go home, put it into my spreadsheet, send direct mail, stuff like that. There's a new service. You can find it at www.sendfuse.com. It's SENDFUSE.com. I personally do not have results from this site yet. I'm just being honest and straightforward with you guys, but it looks super promising. Here's what it is. From your telephone, you send a text message to a number with the address of your property. They pull the buyers or the sellers, you know, the seller on deeds information from public records and set up an automatic drip campaign where they just send all of your direct mail for you. And so basically, it's more or less a set it and forget it. You don't have to go on and do all the legwork or set up the thing every single month or anything like that. You just send a text message of the property, and they take care of that for you. And I'm all about automation. And the good thing about this is you don't have to have, let's say, a minimum. Some of these mail companies that you guys might be looking into want a minimum, or at least a minimum, before you get certain breaks in terms of the pricing. It also seems to be very, very time efficient. And again, it's also set up on a drip. So it looks very, very promising. It's something that I would recommend you guys check out. Again, I can't say this is highly recommended because I don't know, but it is something that I just started using. And also, it's very inexpensive. It's very reasonable. It's like $1 per postcard, so you can do it on a as small or large of a scale as you want. So if you guys are doing driving for dollars, that does look very promising. And that was the resource that I alluded to in the email, if you guys saw that today. All right. We're almost out of time. We got let's see, maybe one last question here. Guys, do want to also remind you, if you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, please consider doing so. Great help to me, greatly helps the channel if you would subscribe and sign up for notifications if you are enjoying the content. Also, you email me. A lot of times I get the topics or inspiration from you guys. So if you would email me your questions, mike@wholesalingwithmike.com. If something requires a more elaborate, or if it's something I need to show on my computer screen or something like that, I'd be happy to make a video for you. But yeah, please subscribe to the channel. Also check out my website, www.wholesalingwithmike.com. That is where I've got even more content that's not on the YouTube channels, exclusive videos not on the YouTube channels and YouTube channel. And some of the YouTube channels I show, let's say, a process, but then I'll allude to on the site. I may expand. It might be either an expanded version of the same video or free downloads you guys can check out. I have stuff like assignment contracts, my JFE contract, stuff like that on there. If you guys are interested in the program, in the training and mentoring program, I have students that are seeing a lot of success in that program. I definitely would recommend you check it out. There are different tiers to it now, so some of it, well, I'll let you guys check it out. Just go back to my website, wholesalingwithmike.com, click on the button that says joint venture and mentoring, and you can see the details of what's included and how that works. It's another way to do joint venture deals and things of that nature. So definitely check that out. Yeah, David, that's the site right there, man. Definitely look into it. Oh, Donald was asking. Yep, yeah, that's it. And then hopefully I'll have some results for you guys on that sometime in the very near future. This week I will be on live at today, Wednesday, and Friday. So it won't be every single day, but I'll be here with you guys on Wednesday and Friday, same time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hopefully that'll give you guys some time to take some action steps, do some action. Let's give everyone that accountability thing of doing something. For me, it's not about the best list, the best this, the best that. It's about forming good habits and routines and taking action. So I would challenge every one of you, make one phone call this week, if not for anything but to help you get over that initial fear, to bring you some competencies, to get screamed at, to get cursed out, to thicken up your skin, to give you some practice on the phone, submit an offer. The calls are great. I recommend everyone start there, but those are inquiries. When I have my students have certain goals that they have to hit for the day, it's based on offers. An offer is a written contract. So again, you got to start sending these written contracts. If you get rejected, that's part of the game. Remember, this is the only business I know of where you can fail 99% of the time, send 99 bad offers, and just get one offer accepted. You know what I'm saying? And that could really change your life, change your business scope. Like literally in 1 month, 99 rejected offers, one deal accepted, you make a 10K spread, you're already a 6 income earner if you're not there yet. So, think about that and think about starting to take action. I'd love to know what you guys are doing and be able to give you feedback on that. So again, email me, mike@wholesalingwithmike.com, your questions, and let me know the action steps that you guys have taken throughout the week, and I'd be happy to help you and guide you on that road. So again, guys, look forward to your questions. Thank you so much for being here. We're pretty much done here, so there are a couple questions I didn't get into. I'll definitely take note of them and try to answer them for you first thing on our next live call, so we start off that way. So be on time. I will be here with you at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Summerhill, shout out. What's up? I'll call you later. And I will see you guys 7 p.m. on Wednesday. All right, talk to you later. Peace. And peace, Instagram. Thank you guys. And my YouTube folks, sorry we had some delay at the beginning of this call, but I love you guys. Thank you so much.